the load right on in.
Rolling Stone magazine has that song, The Weight, by the band, ranked number 41 on its list of the greatest songs of all time. It was written by our next guest, a leader of the group that some say changed the face of rock and roll. Robbie Robertson has just released a new book on that subject, along with a CD box set. We'll speak with him in just a moment, but first, a look back at his remarkable career.
The sound was pure Americana.
When I get off of this mountain, you know where I want to go.
But their origins were in the Great White North.
Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico.
For 6 years, the band was one of the most influential groups to come out of the Woodstock era. Its principal songwriter, Robbie Robertson, born and raised in Toronto, wrote songs rooted in U.S. history and tradition. Critics and fans seemed drawn to the group's true musicianship. Talent pooled earlier from years on the road as the backing band for Ronnie Hawkins, and then later, Bob Dylan. It was with Dylan where they found themselves at the center of a rock and roll controversy. Dylan had just gone electric, and the group had to endure constant booing from audiences. At one gig, an audience member shouted, "Judas." Dylan responded by telling the band to play louder. After parting with Dylan, the band's original lineup went on to release 7 records over 7 years before they called it quits in a final concert commemorated in Martin Scorsese's film, The Last Waltz. The original band's final show featured a who's who of rock and roll. In the last moment of the film, Robertson explained some of the reasons he was walking away.
The road has taken a lot of the great ones. Hank Williams, Buddy Holly, Otis Redding, Janis, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis. It's a goddamn impossible way of life.
After his time with the band, Robertson moved into film, writing the music for Scorsese's Raging Bull and co-writing Eric Clapton's hit For the Color of Money. Robertson would also record 5 critically acclaimed solo albums. But his years with the band continue to call him back. He recently produced Live at the Academy 1971, a collection of the band's now legendary New Year's Eve shows.
Robbie Robertson's new book is out this weekend. It's titled Legends, Icons, and Rebels, Music That Changed the World. And we're honored to welcome Robbie Robertson to CBS this morning, Saturday. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is basically a kid's book, really. You want kids to become acquainted with these figures who some of them may think are a little pre-Miley Cyrus, maybe, you know?
Well, you know, the kids, but I think from 9 to 99 is the ideal age for this book. Mm-hmm. And the idea of young people, the publishing company said this is really aimed at for young readers. Yeah. And that is like in that 9 to 13, 14 years of age. This turned out so great. I mean, much beyond my expectations. The people that we worked with in putting this together, boy, did they rise to the occasion.
The artwork is terrific. You talk about young people. When we were looking at that piece just now, you saw yourself with Dylan. You said, I was 20 years old then. You didn't put the band in this book conspicuously. You put Dylan in it, but you didn't put the band.
And that was a choice that I made. I didn't want that distraction in it. I didn't want it to be like I was tooting my own horn. Mm-hmm. And we are hoping that we can continue with this, that there'll be a volume 2 as well, because there's so many people that we didn't get the opportunity to pay homage to.
And basically you want kids to know what, or young people to know what?
just some of the greatest recording artists of all time, because so many things, the baton is passed down from them, from these artists here. And if you know about these artists, these 27 artists that are in this book, it's kind of, it sets the stage for you. You have a foundation in music that you really kind of know where stuff comes from, and you know what the real deal is. And we're just trying to start with the originators.
Right. We mentioned that you've got a box set coming out. You've been going back through the band's old material. What's that been like?
It's been pretty great, actually. This collection, the band live at the Academy of Music, is a real high point in when we were really at the top of our game. And it was an extraordinary opportunity that we could record at this time, because we were in a huddle at this stage where we were kind of playing to each other. And when I would play a solo or something, I was playing it right at Levon or right at Garth, and they would come back to me with something, a very particular period, and we were good enough that we could rise to this occasion to say, why don't we get Alan Toussaint to join us too and do horn charts for this. And then for the New Year's Eve concert for this, Bob Dylan showed up, and he came for the encore, and we played together. So it was just a tremendous highlight.
You lost Levon Helm, the drummer, last year. You guys went through a pretty bitter period, but I think you made peace in some way, at least at the end, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I never had any issues in this thing, but sometimes when people get a little bit older than that, they can get a little grouchy, and I loved Levon, all the time. We were the closest of friends, and I was really sad to lose him.
All right, Robbie Robertson, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Robbie Robertson is just one of the rock legends photographed by Mark